If you've never cruised before, what to know, not just about cruising, but what to know about sailing with Virgin Voyages, coming up. The first thing you gotta know is that Virgin Voyages is just different. I'm gonna be totally honest. If you've never cruised before and your first cruise is Virgin Voyages,
it's gonna ruin literally everything else for you.
Oh no!
But there are three key things to understand around how Virgin Voyages is just different from other cruise lines. So let's quickly start with that. Which, by the way, if you're new here, ahoy! I'm Christine Lozada with Where in the World is CL. This video is part of a Virgin Voyages crash course. I don't want you to miss the entire playlist. It's in the show notes of this video. So I just want you to know that I'm working super hard for you and my travel agent is working super hard for you to get the best deal possible. It only takes a minute. Be a smart traveler and make sure that you're price comparing. The first thing to know is that there's no kids. And a lot of people take this to mean
Adults only means X-rated.
but the way I explained it to my mom is that the jokes are just way funnier because they don't need to be told in this way that goes over some kid's head and they don't understand. It's just a funnier, more entertaining adult experience.
1, 2, 3. Hey, it's a bingo!
But the other thing, when there's no kids, is it leads to the second key difference, which is just a much more modern ship and a much more modern experience. So one quick example of what that means, and especially if you've never cruised before, normally you would use like some kind of cheesy lanyard with your cruise card. Virgin Voyages uses a band, and this band is what unlocks your room as well as helps you to pay for things around the ship. We'll talk about that more in a second, but your band is what you're using instead of some cheesy cruise card and cruise lanyard. All right, let's talk about preparing yourself to cruise because we have good news and we have bad news. So the good news, like Elijah says, is that you are in and out. This is a vacation. Cruising is so easy. Not only is it one of the most affordable vacations out there, but literally everything is plug and play. It makes it too easy for you to just enjoy yourself. But I have two specific tips to make it even easier for you. The first is around understanding the schedule. You got two ways of doing this on Virgin Voyages and on cruising in general. The first is the app, and I actually recommend you spend time familiarizing yourself with the app. And the other thing is knowing that you will get a printed schedule each day, which is your entire lineup, the things you can eat, the entertainment you can enjoy, just what's going on around the ship, but understanding that there's a schedule both in your app as well as a printed version for you to navigate what's available to you. The second tip I have for you is to chillax. I get it. You want to do all of the things, but I have a specific tip for you because most people realize that they have to come back. Doing a single Virgin Voyage is too hard to do all the fun things in your sailing. And so one tip that I have is meals. Meals can take a really long time. I've had dinners that are 4 hours long. I've had dinners that are 45 minutes long. When you sit down to dine, have an idea of how long you want to spend at that dinner and let your waiter or waitress know so that they can try to do their absolute best to get you in and out on the schedule that you want to be there in. And to be honest, I just know. I know you're going to come back. So book your next sailing with us. I want to give you a little bit of perspective because don't feel bad. It took me 6 sailings to learn that there was a brunch burger. It took me 3 sailings to realize that the Sun Club exists. This is where you get poke bowls. It took me 7 sailings to be able to walk out of my cabin and go to the place that I want to be going to. It takes time.
Which leads to the bad news.
The bad news about cruising, there's a couple things to know. The first piece of bad news is that you're just going to be lost and it's normal. I have 2 tips for you. 1, watch a walkthrough video. I have several videos that walk you through the ship to just help you get familiarized. And the second tip is once you embark, once you get on board, as soon as you get onto your sailing, go grab your alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink from the bar and just spend a little bit of time walking around and familiarizing yourself with the ship. The second piece of bad news, well, I guess it's good news because the food on Virgin Voyages is amazing. But whether you're coming here or any cruise line, on average,
5 to 7 pounds.
so that's how much weight you are likely going to gain because that's bad news. But the other bad news is the elevators. If you're on a busier sailing or in general, just on a cruise ship, you spend a lot of time waiting for elevators. So this might be a helpful tip. Your chance, use the stairs. stairs. I use the stairs as much as I can anytime I'm on cruise ships, but the bad news is a lot of people are going to the same places, and spending time waiting around for elevators sometimes can not be the most fun experience.
Use the stairs.
I've got about half a dozen more helpful tips so that you can prepare to cruise for your first time. But first, if you're getting some value, cheers that like button, consider subscribing. And if you have a helpful tip, if you've been doing research because you're a smart traveler, add it in the comments below. And there's so many things in the show notes that most people miss. A helpful Facebook group. Come sail with me on Virgin Voyages, killer deals, and so much more. Make sure you check the show notes. And don't forget price comparing. Be a smart traveler. It literally takes a minute because I want you to book with us. We working hard for you. All right, let's talk about a few more helpful tips. This is gonna sound funny if you're watching this and you have cruised before, but one time I was sailing on Virgin Voyages and my friend asked,
Let me know how much to Venmo you for dinner.
and I was like, oh, the food is all included. Yes, there are options for different kinds of upgrades, but generally the big majority of all the food that you will eat on this cruise is included in the price of your sailing. So if you've never cruised before, your meals, your non-alcoholic drinks, your entertainment, all of these things are included. But one thing that's different about Virgin Voyages is that there's no buffet experience. There is something called the galley, which is a food hall, but there's no buffet unlike other cruise lines. Let's keep it going with food because let's talk about alcohol. The first time I ever cruised, I didn't realize that you could walk from restaurant to restaurant or place to place with your drink, and that's totally normal. But the other thing is that sadly, Virgin Voyages is not going to pay for your alcohol. What? Your alcohol is not included, and unlike other cruise lines, there are no drink packages. But one thing that I think is really important is a lot of people expect the alcohol to be insanely expensive, and it's not. There's so many more resources that I have for you to understand this before you get on board, so make sure you check the show notes. The next helpful thing to know is that you're at sea. If you've never cruised before, kind of like the first time you ever fly, it's just a different kind of experience. If you are like me and you're prone to car sickness or motion sickness, it's helpful. You can always bring it and not use it. Bring motion sickness patches or Dramamine or other items that might help you to stay comfortable on board. I have a full Virgin Voyages Amazon curated list as well as a what to pack video, so make sure you check that out. But one helpful tip I have for you is if you are prone to motion sickness, having a centrally located room. Think about it. If your room is located at the very front or the very back of the bus,
The ship.
that means that it's probably rocking more than the center of the ship. So one thing to consider, get a centrally located room. The next thing is that you need a passport. Yeah. If you're just cruising, you don't necessarily need a passport. You can use your birth certificate, etc. But the world is waiting for you. Go get your passport. The next thing to know is that there's something called the muster process. And it's basically watching a safety video and making sure you check in and know where to go in the event of an emergency. On Virgin Voyages, super easy. You either watch the video from your room, which I recommend, or you watch it from the app. On the day that you get on board, you simply check in to your emergency location so you know where it's at just in case. The muster process, super easy. Something if you're a first-time cruiser, you need to know is something you gotta do once you're on board. The next thing to know is about packing. A lot of people who cruise for a first time don't really know what they should and shouldn't bring on board, and I have a couple helpful tips around that. The first thing is around knowing what you can't bring on board. Oddly, illegal things that hurt people, things that cause fires, you can't bring those on board. Watch the what to pack video, but a couple things I do recommend you pack is one, layers. A lot of people plan for the places, the ports that they're going to, but on the actual ship, it gets very hot and very cold all over the ship. So bringing layers of clothing. The next thing is bringing hooks. Your entire room is magnetic, and it's helpful to be able to get things off of the floor and put things away and keep your room a little bit more organized. And so hooks is something that's really helpful to have as well. And this last one, to be honest, makes me a little bit sad, especially when I see people falling on the ship, but bringing non-slip shoes. A lot of parts around the ship might be slippery, especially if you're out on the decks, but bringing non-slip shoes. These are just 3. There's a whole Amazon curated list as well as a pack list video. Don't miss it. Specific to Virgin Voyages though, there's no limit on your luggage. Obviously, if you're flying in, then there's limits on your airline, but unlike other cruise lines, Virgin Voyages won't limit how much luggage you can bring on board. And another top thing people ask is, well, what's the process for bringing your luggage on board? Yes, you can bring everything on as soon as you get on board, if you want to, because your room will be ready. Or you can check your luggage, and similar to TSA, it's basically the same process where you are going through something that feels like you're going through the airport, you're going through security, you're putting your luggage through the belt. And so it's similar to the TSA process. And if you check your luggage, similar to TSA, it will go through a screening process as well. This next one is kind of a funny one to me because a lot of people don't realize this. There's no difference. There's no difference between the different ships on Virgin Voyages. If you're cruising with other cruise lines, there can be a humongous difference. Within Royal Caribbean, for example, Icon of the Seas is totally different than Utopia is different than Oasis is different. The ships are varying ages and are varying sizes. On Virgin Voyages, all the ships are the same except Brilliant. Brilliant Lady is slightly slimmer so that she can fit through the Panama Canal, but otherwise Scarlet, Valiant, Resilient, all of these ships are exactly the same build and exactly the same layout, which means I'm on Valiant right now, and when I get on Resilient next week, it's the same thing. This last and a very important one is around your tours. So when you're sailing and you're cruising, what they call it is your shore excursions. What you're gonna do while you're at port. If there's something you really wanna do, make sure you're booking that in advance. But don't forget, cruising is one of the easiest vacations out there. You can figure it out as you go, or just enjoy yourself on the ship while everyone is off at port. Today, I didn't even get off. Why? I'm working hard for you. So if you got some value out of this video, cheers that like button, consider subscribing. I want you to know what to expect. I want to be here for you every step of the way so that you can have the best sailing possible. I also want to make sure you get the best deal possible. Book with us. Make sure you at least spend 60 seconds price comparing to make sure you're being a smart traveler. I'm Christine Lozada. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.